The first Descendant is a pay-to-lose video game. This is a term that I'm taking from indie developer Thor, who works for Studio Pirate Software. Shout out to that channel overall. Lots of awesome sage advice. But the idea being a pay-to-lose video game, something that is fundamentally single-player in terms of the way you're interacting with it. You're taking on hordes of enemies. You're wiping out loads of different dudes, but you can pay to expedite the process. You can pay to get some better skins or whatever it is. And the first Descendant is being highlighted at the minute as something that is just incredibly aggressive monetary-wise. Now, the player numbers for this are very high. It's still got 250,000 people playing it, at least over on Steam, and it is a free-to-play game. But things like, the colors for your armor have to be bought every single time. Every time you buy a new skin, you've got to pay separately for the colors. Even if you're having the skin applied to multiple characters, you have to pay for it every single time you want to apply it to a different character. Some skins themselves are $6. There are separate microtransactions around upgrading items because there's a max level that you can hit eventually if you grind out enough time, or you can just pay for that. And there's all the general approach overall of just being an extremely grind-heavy video game. Now, this is from developers Nexon, who are known for it. And it's interesting if you look at the general response, because a lot of fans who are playing this, like I said, the player numbers are very high, are just people going like, yeah, we know what we're in for. And there's always a window of opportunity with a game like this. Like, yes, it's free to play. Maybe the gameplay is good fun, and there'll be a little window where we try and play as much as we can. We'll get as much fun out of it as we can, and then Nexon will realize this and crank the prices up and eliminate the entire player base. It seems like in this regard, Nexon have doubled down on the marketing. I feel like they got this out there across Summer Game Fest and various summer streams across the last few months, and so all the microtransactions are sky high. So it's like you've kind of got this meeting of both the fan base side of it and the business side of it, going, well, what if we just fleeced you up front and get as much money out of you as possible? There are also things like drop rates being extremely low for items that you might need at the end of a chain to get the final thing. Various people reporting that certain items are only 20% drop rates, people playing for 5, 6, 10 hours one mission over and over again trying to get this one thing that they need. But of course you could just pay your way through it instead. And I feel like it's part of a bigger conversation on the pay to lose stuff, on the monetizing single player things. Like, there's no PvP here. There's only let's say Anthem style dropping in, or Warframe style dropping in, and fighting waves of enemies. I know Warframe has various ways you can play with other people, but this is pretty gross.
That does not
sound a gross time.
Very good at all, Scott.
No.
I have not played the game myself, but from what has been described there, it sounds like another one of these games that tries to fleece you as much as possible and get you on their little treadmill by giving you a few rewards at the beginning and then immediately taking them away and being like, well, if you want to keep on this progression system, you got to pay in one way or another. I think the stuff about paying individually for colors is absolutely atrocious. I thought we got rid of that years and years ago.
Another thing to throw in as well, because that is what Destiny did. Sorry, and Halo Infinite did, where you're paying for entire like swatches of colors all in one, and you can't just make that armor set red. You've got to buy the whole set of it. In that vein, right now there's a whole conversation on just how many logos and emblems inside First Descendant are almost identical to Destiny 2. There's a lot of side-by-sides doing the rounds, to which the fan base just goes, yeah, it's probably going to be that, which is a bit of an issue in itself. But it's just a thing. It's I was going to say a damning indictment, just a reality of where we're at, that a lot of people are just kind of aware of how much they're being fleeced. And just going like, yeah, they're going to do that. Bring it on. It's free to play. I'll shoot some stuff for a bit and then I'm moving on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of conflicted on that. On the one side of me, I kind of massively respect that. Of just
in a way,
like, yeah, all right, I'll get what I need out of this game, and it's not kind of getting any more. Of course, you have to wonder how many people don't have that mentality and are getting got by all of these practices that are included in there. And I was going to say, when you started reeling off all of the mistakes, even though I know they're features, they're not bugs in this case, but all of the mistakes that this game has made, I was going to say, like, why don't these developers learn when we've seen similar situations with Halo Infinite or Destiny, or perhaps most notably Diablo 3 and then Diablo Immortal? But the answer is, they're features, they're not bugs. Like, this is intended to be this way, probably to fleece the most hardcore players who want to jump in at launch and then maybe say, oh, we kind of got it wrong, we're rolling it back, and then look
we listened,
good.
Guys.
Yeah, we listened, and then look good further on down the line to get the good PR there. How many times have we seen publishers and developers, both big and small, push their luck with the launch version of a game and then and we've been part of this too, kind of reward the publishers for rolling stuff back. Like I always think, I remember when you taught me about Mortal Kombat 11 at launch and how much stuff had to be rolled back after the backlash sort of arrived, and that's just what we see over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's kind of insulting. I mean, it's not even kind of insulting. It is insulting that they know what they're doing. Like they don't. I don't think anyway. I don't think in this current climate, after we've had so many examples, you put out a game with practices like this and are ignorant about how they will be received. I think you know at this point, and you intend to test the waters and then kind of ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah, well, the thing is that the skin pricing in this is also insane. Like, a lot of stuff fluctuates based on if you want a premium skin or an ultimate version of a skin or whatever. And the fact that it is free to play is always the defense on the developer side or the studio side, saying, well, you're getting so much up front for free. But there is just such an insane double down on grinding. And even just the UI, like the way that they remind you that you do need to go back into these missions, run them over and over again, hope for that the thing you need will drop. And I get, like, I do get it, that the idea, it's free to play, just play it. That's all I'm going to play for the next few months. I'll just play a little bit and I'll get something. And I haven't paid a cent and whatever that works, or a penny. But I do think that the fact that Nexon are becoming known for this is like a weird double-edged sword thing, where you do have a fan base going like, yeah, that's what they're going to do. But that then means they can crank it and crank it and crank it. And it's like, is there ever a limit to this? People are just up for being fleeced for a certain window and then moving on. I want to throw into the conversation as well the fact that we do see this in the likes of Assassin's Creed and Capcom's releases, like Resident Evil had it, and Devil May Cry 5 had it as well. RE4 Remake, having the tickets that you could buy, or like Devil May Cry had, you could buy the currency to upgrade weapons, to buy certain weapons as well. It's just a weird thing. I don't know who the hell buys a single player game to pay their way through it.
That's it. And I think I know I'm at the other end of that extreme, because I'm very precious about respecting the upgrade process in video games. And what I mean by that is, when I bought The Last of Us Remastered on PlayStation 4 and got the bonuses of like attachments for weapons, and I think it was like a few crafting materials, I didn't even want to use them, because I thought, well, the developers, I assumed anyway, had created the progression systems of this game in such a way to make for the greatest flow. Why would I want to immediately bypass them with better weapons? I remember when I got the Deathloop code from Sony to review, and they gave me the limited edition version of the game, or maybe the deluxe edition, I can't remember. The point is, they gave me this weapon that pretty much nullified all of the weapons for like the first 10 hours of that game, where it was this super powerful silenced pistol, and it meant I was just using that and not kind of interacting with the game in the way that maybe the developers wanted. So in my head, I see the stuff in games like Resident Evil 4 or whatever it is, or Ubisoft games back in the day, to allow you to just have like instant max experience, or unlock this weapon early, or get full attachments, or whatever it is. And it's like, am I not defeating the point of the game? I understand that there are people who may, just want to go in and start blasting, but
I'm one of them.
Like I always think it's like, and I think Stephanie Sterling would have said this years ago, in fact, where she was talking about how it undermines the developer's own work. Like, you spend years and years creating this gameplay loop and creating these levels, and then someone kind of comes in and goes, we know you don't care about that. What if you want to skip it? Skip all of this labor.
It's also, that's the thing. And also there's the other side of it. I remember in Sterling's video talking about, like, you're fundamentally making a game so full of bloat, or so full of optional stuff, or unnecessary stuff, or obtrusive stuff, that you can then offer the pay option. You have to make it off-putting enough to then want to be able to pay through it. Like, it's such a weird gotcha scam style approach to video game design that I get, that makes the money. Like, these kind of games do make money in a little short term, but I feel like where we're at with something like the first Descendant, and we're after things like Avengers and Anthem, or something like Foam Stars from earlier this year, which itself had insane microtransactions, are we all just in on the joke now, that if you're going to play a game like this, you're going to get fleeced, and the developers go, well, the people who are going to come in, we're just going to charge for as much as we can, because we know this is going to die in a couple of months.
The
player numbers stand out in this case, where it is 250,000 people playing. Even the 24-hour peak for first Descendant was 250,000. It's like 248,000. But I don't believe there's a genuine strand here anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe there are some people who I just want to play a free-to-play game and I want to engage with it honestly. I want to believe I think that is most people.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there's an awareness now that wasn't there before, where we've all just been collectively ripped off too many times.
I think there is an awareness, but also I would say that awareness is, of course, not bad. It's great to know how these practices work.
Yes.
But I don't know. This is my theory, right? I see the discourse around games like this and how people's understanding of friction when it comes to the player experience is kind of altered because when we saw Dragon's Dogma 2 earlier in the year release its microtransactions, which I do not love, but that kind of got, I thought, a disproportionate amount of hate because then many people assumed, because they've kind of been told to in the past, that the mechanics in Dragon's... Bloody hell. I haven't done this in a while. I'm so very sorry.
Because Dragon Age is also doing the rounds.
It is. It really is. I get all the D's mixed up. They assume that the progression systems in Dragon's Dogma 2 are the way they are intentionally to annoy you and piss you off, so you'll go to the microtransactions, where I don't believe for a second that's how that game was designed, because you can go back and look at the original game. It does seem to be centered around that friction with the player, but I can understand why people would assume that, because you get games like this where the friction and the grind is literally there to incentivize you to use the store. So that's where I worry that the awareness might be hurting kind of on a grander scale, because we view these practices, we understand what they are, but then it makes us so guarded to anything that, you know, offers a bit of a grind or offers a bit of friction or a bit of hostility towards the player for artistic reasons, and it makes us wary of it, and rightly so.
Yeah, I was going to say rightly so, because I think if you're trying to do a difficult video game or something that offers friction or whatever it is, and then if any one of those microtransactions offers anything that can remotely affect gameplay, you've effed up and you've lost it. You can only really ever do cosmetics as additional microtransactions, which I know is something that Pirate Software has pointed out as well, because anything else is going to affect the gameplay loop. And versions of that existed back, like you said. I remember when Splinter Cell Convictions pre-order bonus was a shotgun, and I was just like, well, why would I need that? Like, that's just gonna break the whole game open. And I remember I do have that thought process that you have, where if it's something like a pre-order bonus that gives you 50 more currency or gives you 50 more bullets or whatever the hell it is, then I assume that's not how the game was tweaked, because that's fundamentally optional. And so it's weird then having different monetization systems around things that are fundamentally optional. But like I said, it's just this weird two-way street thing, where it's just sort of, I'm going to try and get as much free gameplay out of this as I can, and hopefully it's enjoyable, and I'm not going to engage with the grind stuff. But they need to subtly, or maybe not so subtly, push you in that direction anyway, with game mechanics, with different loops, with grind drop rates, whatever. They need to get you on that treadmill, so your time is fundamentally being abused regardless.
Yes.
And it's like, that's kind of what it comes down to, is like, is this the way you want to spend your time? Is this the game that's worth your time?
That's true. And man, like I said, I do have some respect for the people who know what it is and know what they're getting out of it. But I don't want us to kind of become complacent in pushing back, because for many people, I think it's going to be the most vulnerable people who are caught by these predatory systems. There's going to be people who, I know there's been studies done to associate like the gambling mentality with progression systems in games, and you don't want people to be hooked and feel like they're on this treadmill and have to pay for stuff. I know, even if it is a small percentage of the player base,
it's still insidious. I mean, it's still designed towards that.
And even though there might be a lot of people now aware of these practices and can avoid being caught by them, I still think we should be focused on the people that do get caught by them, and that a lot of these developers are relying on to get caught by them, or publishers or whoever it is making the decisions. And that's the thing that makes me think, like, we can be aware, but we still got to be critical. And we still got to push back against that stuff, I guess.
Looking at active Steam player numbers is always fascinating as well. Like, there are still people playing Anthem. Like it's for whatever reason, like in terms of the things that they're getting out of that. But yeah, in regards to the first Descendant, this is, to me at least, the most the developer Nexon has pushed to get something in front of as bigger people as possible, and it has worked in regards to the player numbers. I'll be curious to see how much money it makes in the long term, because for as much fun as people are having with just the third-person shooting gameplay, it's immediately backed up by, but the monetization is horrific and extremely aggressive, and you're hit with pop-ups and everything as fast as possible.